This morning we start the conversation of speaking about the Storebay Renovation project. Good morning, Mr. Morris, and welcome.
Good morning, Miss Combie. Let me say also special good morning to all of Tobago, Trinidad, and Tobago, and a special shout out to the Virgo princes, kings, and queens. This is Virgo season.
Of course, you had to put that plug in there. But we're going to head on straight into the conversation this morning. We're talking about a renovation project, which lends to the development of that particular area on the island of Tobago, specifically for tourism, the development of tourism on the island. And we saw recently on social media where there was a photo of projections for the development of the Storebay Beach facility. And of course, everybody who commented, they have their opinions, some for, some having questions, and some persons uncertain about what is happening. And I want to get your position on this because while we appreciate and we welcome development in any area of the island of Tobago, whether it's in tourism, agriculture, whatever it is, we welcome the development because it's a benefit for all of us here on the island of Tobago. However, there are situations that you have expressed some concerns about, and we want to talk about that a little bit this morning as we get into where you stand where this is concerned.
So, and of course, I quite agree with you. As a Tobagonian, we all should welcome any initiative that would advance, the infrastructural outlook of any facility in Tobago, whether it be tourism related, agriculture, wherever it may reside. However, what the challenge I am as a minority leader, and of course, the challenge I am hearing from the the stakeholders, is that they have a serious concern with the process and the approach. And here it is, you have a massive project of this nature that would affect all of Tobago and all Tobagonians because Storebay is one of our prized gems. And this project, persons only came to know of this project from a Facebook post. And therefore, it suggests that the project lacked the necessary consultation that is required in a situation like this. It also is done with a level of secrecy because up to this point, no one can tell us what would this project cost the people of Tobago, whether the Tobago House of Assembly indeed have the funding to undertake this project on its own. And if they don't have the funding, who is going to fund the project? What is in it for them? Is it a situation where it is a public-private partnership? What would the private partner, what are the expectations of the private partner? How are we going to select this private partner? Would it be some favored person of this administration, or would it be a transparent and open and fair process? So therefore, there are a number of questions and there are little answers, and this is what have us concerned.
Initially you mentioned in the beginning of your discourse, you mentioned the lack of consultation. But we're hearing that the Secretary of Tourism mentioned that there was consultation. There was a town hall meeting. The THA executive was there, along with members of the community of the Canaan Bonaccord area, tenants and users of the Storebay Beach facility. She even said in an interview that a survey was done. I'm trying to find out what the users would require at the beach facility. She went on to say that the beach facility, of course, as we said, we welcome the development because it is necessary, for our tourism purposes. But now we're hearing persons saying, and even you this morning, that the consultation perhaps either was not done or it was not done intensely enough to involve as many persons as possible. So I'm not sure where we are where that is concerned.
Well, you are Tobagonian, Miss Combie, and I'll ask you, before now, in terms you said there was a survey. Did you see this survey? Is there any public portal where Tobagonians, all Tobagonians, because remember this project doesn't just affect persons residing around the Storebay area. This is, as I said, a gem. This is one of our prized pieces that is owned by every Tobagonian, and therefore we all must have a say. And this is one of the challenges that I think this administration does not recognize, that there's a difference between a meeting and having meaningful consultation. Consultation means not simply calling people to a space, because I recognize oftentimes this is what is put forward. But we kept a meeting. We had something at a center. It is the same thing with the Bloody Babe Blue Food facility. They said they called people to, I think, Palliative Community Center or Bloody Bay Community Center, one of them. But when you're having such a fundamental change, what is required is active and continuous engagement. It means that every step of the way, you have to consult, you have to get people's opinion, people's feedback, and that it is a two-way kind of arrangement. It is not you coming to speak to us to tell us this is what we are going to do. Because when you look at the render, this conceptual drawing, and the question we all have to ask ourselves is, who told these people that we wanted those things there? Who told them that we wanted a beach club? Who told them that we wanted a swimming pool right next to a beach? Who told them that we wanted to change the entire outlook? Because it's different to do because I'm seeing this, the thing here is saying renovation. And what they are doing, they are not doing a renovation or an upgrade. They are actually doing a redevelopment, which is a complete transformation of the space. And therefore, if you're doing a complete transformation of the space, it requires the input of all the stakeholders. How many stakeholders had their input actually actively engaged and included in this arrangement? And in a real sense, the reason why there's so much pushback is because people felt like, or feel like they have not had their say. They have not had their actual opinions addressed and their concerns. And this is why the project is creating such a stir in the space.
Mr. Morris, what would you say to the fact that the secretary also said that at the Great Race event last year, 2023, there was an actual physical survey taking place there, where they spoke with persons at the event. Of course, they are there in the space, using the space, seeing the challenges there. And of course, they did the survey there with the persons who were on spot to identify what the challenges are and what are the things they wanted to see for the redevelopment project that they are now seeking to undertake.
So I challenge the secretary to produce the data that shows us that when they did the survey, which did not include you and me, who are all Tobagonians with an interest in that space, that we said we wanted a beach club for her fancy friends and her fancy investors to come and invest and push out our Tobago people like Mr. Nicholson and Miss Jean and all of them. Let her produce the evidence, produce the results of that survey that said we want a swimming pool, a splash pool that would take away from the persons coming to the beach to enjoy the beach. Let her produce the evidence.
The secretary also mentioned, and I can only go based on the conversations that are in the public space right now. She also mentioned that this is just a design from a concept gathered from the information based on the survey and the conversations that we had in the consultation, I suppose at the town hall meeting, and also the survey taken on the day of Great Race last year, August 2023. Preliminary designs, and of course they will still go back to it to make the necessary edits or changes that need to be made before the construction begins. How do you see that, and how do you see the opportunity now for the persons who were not involved in the initial consultation to have their input as to where we are now?
So I want to say to the secretary, I know she called us unwashed and illiterate, but Tobagonians are washed and we are literate and we are not fools. Because here it is again, you are coming to us, you said you had consultation. If you really had meaningful consultation, it means that when you came to us to speak to us, you would have showed us the data that said we surveyed 100 people and we asked them, what would you like to see in a upgraded Storebay Beach facility? And 35% or 50% of the persons said we want a beach club. 75% of the people said we want a swimming pool. And therefore, this conceptual drawing is indicative of what came out of the survey. Where is the evidence? And that is the problem. Where is the evidence that shows that the render that or the conceptual drawing is indicative of what the people said they want? And I challenge her, because this is, if they're saying they are open and they are transparent, let us see the data. Let us see how many people said that they wanted a beach club. Let us see how many people said they wanted a swimming pool, because ultimately this facility belongs to the people of Tobago, not to the secretary, not to her investors and her fancy friends.
Mr. Morris, we can all agree that the development is welcomed, as we mentioned earlier. Now that we are at this stage, and we know it's going to happen at some point, what do you see as the way forward now? From today, how do we move forward to ensure we engage all the stakeholders, that we all have a say, that we all see what we want to see, that we can all benefit from this and attract more tourists to the island of Tobago, thereby improving the tourism product?
Well, they have to engage all of Tobago, because this development is important to all of us. And it, as I said, it's a redevelopment. So it's a transformation of the space. And therefore, if we are doing a fundamental transformation of that space, that includes even your tour operators, even your patrons who comes to the space, how much money they would now have to pay to enter the space, what would locals pay, what would this cost the assembly? Because this assembly is saying to us that at this point in time, they are challenged when it comes to cash flow. And therefore, we all have to ask ourselves, with all the million things that we have to do, can we afford this project in the way they are proposing? Or can we perhaps do something else that is a little more cost effective and beneficial? These are the questions, but we cannot make a decision in the absence of information. And therefore, we need to know how much will this project cost. Up to now, imagine you're giving us a drawing. You have a proposed drawing, but you don't have a cost estimate. That is like going and shoot in the wild, because we, as the Tobagonians, who are the shareholders of this place and this project, imagine we do not even know how much this would cost us. And that is a slap in the face of every Tobagonian.
And as you mentioned, the cost of it, we're going to take a quick break there and come back, continuing the conversation as it relates to the development of a Storebay Beach facility and development across the island of Tobago as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Mr. Kelvon Morris, Minority Leader in the Tobago House of Assembly, and also the area representative for Spring Garden and WIM. We will be right back as we continue conversations this morning. We want you to stay with us as we continue having the important conversations that matter to me, you, and all of us who reside here in Tobago. In the meantime, help us to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Morning Show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie, and thank you so much for staying with us. We continue conversations this morning with Mr. Kelvon Morrison. He is the Minority Leader in the Tobago House of Assembly. Earlier I said Spring Garden, but it's Darrell Spring WIM, the correction there. And we continue conversations about the Storebay redevelopment project this morning. Welcome back, Mr. Morris.
Thank you. And yeah, Spring Garden is actually part of the district. So, we welcome all parts of the district being mentioned.
That's right. So we were talking about the redevelopment project. We started speaking about the consultation process and the other processes. Now, we know all of these projects, we use the public purse to fund them primarily. And so, of course, the processes have to be followed strictly, adhered to strictly to ensure accountability and transparency. In terms of all the projects that are taking place on the island of Tobago, the Storebay redevelopment project isn't the only one. There are other projects, other development projects. We can look at the A&R Robinson project as it were now. We see how far it has come. And in terms of following the processes, where what is your position where that is concerned in the way we approach our projects generally across the board? And I'm not just talking about, I don't want to talk about the political parts of it. I want to talk about the actual adhering to the processes. Have you seen that in the public space with public officers as they undertake projects on the island of Tobago using the public purse, the taxes that I pay, the taxes that you pay to do these development projects, which we welcome? Have you seen an adherence to the processes and the accountability and transparency to the persons of Tobago?
Well, the thing about it, what we can do is do the compare and contrast. And the projects that have been successful are the ones that would have followed the process. And the ones that seem to be challenged are the ones that doesn't. For example, you have the airport project, and we know we had initial concerns about relocation of persons, and that process, the law was followed, and we see how people have resettled, and the airport project is coming along beautifully, a magnificent infrastructure, one of the best airports, I believe, when it's completed in the entire Caribbean. And then you had the road at Storebay, which is also contrastingly part of what will complement the airport project. And that road, in some parts, is stalled because persons chose not to follow the process. So the examples are clear. When you follow the process, you get successful outcomes. When you don't follow the process, it leads to chaos and confusion, and therefore there are a number of projects, especially those being done by the Tobago House of Assembly, which is challenged because persons just don't want to follow the law. And as we speak about the law, just recently, I raised an issue and brought it to the attention of all Tobagonians, which we all take, and as you said, should take away our political hats and biases and really look at it objectively. As you know, the Eco-Industrial Development Company of Tobago, EIDCOT, which we are all stakeholders because it is a company owned by the Tobago House of Assembly, spending Tobago House of Assembly's monies that belongs to us, and also we the people through the Executive Council would have appointed the board. Yet this company, who is doing and managing most of our projects, spending millions and millions of our monies, is saying to us, the people of Tobago, that you cannot, through a freedom of information, ask or find out from us how we are spending that money. And that if that is not the biggest slap in the face, if that isn't outrageous, preposterous, and almost, it is just downright wrong. I don't know who in Tobago could objectively agree with EIDCOT that they should not be answering questions that we as Tobagonians have. And
Uh,
this is where the challenge lies, the lack of transparency and accountability.
And you preempted my next question because I was going to head on over to that company. As mentioned, it is the project management company here on the island of Tobago, and it is where all the procurement takes place. And in terms of, clearly you have identified your challenges there, but in terms of the distribution of projects to local Tobago contractors, because EIDCOT has the responsibility for that distribution as well, if I'm not mistaken. Have you seen that happening in a way that is fair and balanced across the board?
Well, we can't speak to it because we just don't know what's going on. And when you ask the question, they're saying to you that you don't have a right to know. Imagine that. You, the Tobagonian, they are taking your money. I want people to understand how ridiculous this isn't. They are spending your money. They are owned by you, but they are telling you that you cannot know who we give a contract to. You cannot know the process. We don't know if it's soul selected. We don't know if it's competitive. We don't know the cost. We don't know what was the evaluation report. They can just simply give out contracts, and they're saying you don't have a right to know. This is ridiculous. This is crazy.
Mr. Maurice,
And just to make a point, you have the senior technical advisor in the division of finance, that is where our monies come from, who also sits as the deputy chairman, saying they got legal advice on that matter that says that they don't have to answer to us, and he's comfortable with that advice to the point that he can boldfacedly come to us and tell us, well, that is the advice we have. And in the same breath, tell us, but we are following the procurement law. So you're not subjected to the FY, but you are subjecting yourself to procurement. So one day you are fish, next day you are fowl. You are choosing which law to follow. When did we get so bold faced with governance?
Mr. Morris, it is very important for persons who are in public office and persons, especially when you control, have influence over the money, the spend of the country, that there must be accountability and there must be transparency. And now we're talking about we're in this position with EIDCOT, where, of course, the information is not forthcoming. What is the way forward? Because we've realized in this Tobago space, there are certain things that we want to see change, but the approach in terms of how do we get the change? How do we get the people to be accountable? What is the process now, legally, and also as a people of Tobago? How do we move forward to ensure that we make the demands, if we need to ensure that we know what is taking place? Because as you rightfully said, the spend really comes from me and from you and all of us who pay taxes here on the island of Tobago.
Well, my understanding with specific reference to this matter is that thankfully, the concerned Tobagonian citizen, resident of Tobago, is intent on following this matter to its natural lawful conclusion, and therefore this matter will be taken to the judicial courts of Trinidad and Tobago via judicial review. So this matter will be adjudicated upon, and the question will be asked, is EIDCOT under the Act considered a public authority? And the court will have to make a ruling. And once that ruling is had, then for once and for all, we'll have a clear determination whether EIDCOT must, by law, respond to questions of any nature regarding its operations. Because even on a layman term, if a question is asked of you and the process that you followed can stand scrutiny, then why not simply tell us what are the outcomes? What do you have to hide? What are you doing down there that is so sinister that you just don't want people to know? What is it? It is amazing. I am quite astounded. What
Mr.
is
Morris,
it that they are hiding down there?
I feel your frustration in this, and I do hope that, we get the kind of clarity that we seek where this is concerned. But I want to ask you, I want to switch gears a little bit, staying in the same area, but switching a little. When we talk about projects on the island of Tobago, development projects, whether it is tourism industry, agriculture, but we're talking about infrastructure. When you engage a contractor to embark on a construction project, how do you measure the success? Because, okay, they hand over the building, they hand over the space to you, and you move in. What period should you use to measure the success of this construction? Because sometimes we see where buildings are put up, and 2, 3, 6 months after, there are challenges. Do you know of any processes that take place after the handing over of projects in terms of following up to see the success rate? And if the contractor is called back to fix the issues, is there any type of movement in terms of are they going to be paid more to make those type of adjustments where necessary?
Well, usually, especially there are manuals that guide contracts, especially if you're following the FIDIC manual that tells you what you would get as a threshold in terms of upfront payment. It also has a provision for retention. I think usually it's about 10% retention. And what that does is allow for within a period, that period of post construction, you will evaluate whether there are defects, and through whatever defects is required to be addressed, usually it is deducted from whatever is the retention. And the retention is that amount of the contract that is held by the party who would have requested the job. So that is one of the main things that you utilize to ensure that you can have what your defects liability treated with. Usually as well, there are clauses if there are fundamental issues, structural issues, then the liability is with the contractor within that period. But if one of the challenges and one of the things we have to move to is really building out a serious preventative maintenance kind of regime, because usually we cost for the building, and once the building is constructed, we do not really put in a cost of what would it require to maintain the building and keep it to the standard and do the continuous kind of maintenance that would ensure that we have a building that would withstand the test of time. And so I think the focus we have to put is on the preventative maintenance side, as well as, of course, the project management side, which allows us to ensure we are getting value for money.
Absolutely. Mr. Morris, it's a pleasure speaking with you this morning. And of course, in closing, I want to give you an opportunity to say, your remarks to our viewers here on The Morning Show.
Well, I just want to thank everyone. I know we all will have, it's good to have this different views and diverse views, because we are a multifaceted society. But I always say, let us, even in disagreeing, let us disagree with a level of respect and a level of camaraderie. And I always look forward to the different views that would come out of every interview that I have and come out of every issue that we have in Tobago. But ultimately, let us all work towards putting Tobago first and ensuring that the resources we have in Tobago is utilized to the benefit of all of us as Tobagonians.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morris. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking with Mr. Kelvon Morris. He is the minority leader in the Tobago House of Assembly, and he's also the area representative for Darrell Spring WIM. We've been speaking this morning about the Storebay Beach Facility redevelopment project, as well as EIDCOT projects. We have to go for a short break before we continue conversations this morning in studio. And as we go for a break, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.